discretion is advised.
Why are or aren't you religious? I'm not asking what your religion is, but I'm curious if you can try to dig deep and find out why you've become religious. I was raised as a Southern Baptist. My grandfather is a preacher, retired now. I used to believe quite strongly. My faith began to fade in my late teens. One of my problems with religion is that there are so many of them. Practically every culture for all time has had their own separate religion, and each one believed that theirs was the one. What made me think mine was the right one and billions of other people throughout history were wrong and are burning in hell? I just happened to get lucky enough to be born into a family that believed the right religion. That's bullshit. Clearly, religion is just an attempt to explain a frightening and complex world we don't understand. On a personal level, I had a bad experience. I had been an active member of my church's youth group for years. I got my girlfriend pregnant in high school. You'd have thought I murdered someone. Many of the people treated me like crap about it. Not everyone, of course, but enough that it hurt. Where was the undying love and compassion they preached about? I sure could have used it at that time in my life. I'm not religious because I wasn't raised in a house that ever practiced it. Religion was a non-issue in my family and I never read the Bible. So the whole idea of religion and God just didn't ever make any logical sense to me. I too was raised like this. Religion was never put down in my house. It was more of a do as you please. God was mentioned in context to life sometimes but never anything much. I ended up working with religious establishments 2 times so far in my life. Once as maintenance to a Christian church, and not so long ago as an in-class assistant to a teacher in a Christian school. I respect religions, but they are not for me. I have developed ideas I follow based on my time in these environments, and do believe that some learning the ways of religions can help you learn about yourself. Following religion can take your freedom away in my mind. Why would a God give me free will, only to expect me to devote my life to a religion? Wouldn't this being wish me to formulate ideas and live life to my best without following a herd? Rambling. Raised Catholic. Went to a Catholic primary school, church every Sunday, was baptized, first Holy Communion etc. Then went to a Catholic secondary school, high school, but part of the religious studies class was to look at other faiths. Also was taking classics, the study of ancient civilizations, Egypt, Greek, Roman. Well, I think this old phrase best sums it up. Study one religion, and you'll be hooked for life. Study 2 religions, and you're done in an hour. I was raised in a Hindu family, and whenever I was up to some mischief, my nanny would tell me God is always watching, and he would poke your eyes out if you get into trouble. I was 6, and I would think, if God created me and made me get in trouble, why would he punish me for that? I don't think I ever seriously believed. Whenever we went to any temples, I would admire the sculptures and all the jewels adorned by the gods and goddesses. But that's it. A friend told me that when she went to a temple and saw the deity, she would feel a small shiver of thrill, of happiness. I'm not sure go through her. I remember thinking, damn, why doesn't that ever happen to me? I thought staring at the idol intently would make me shiver. But nope. I felt nothing. My mom is religious and my dad and older brother are not. I think that also had an influence on me. I didn't know that atheism was a thing until I read God's Delusion though, and suddenly I went, oh, I'm one. But Hinduism does have some really cool stories. I will give you that. The mythologies are so intricately written and fascinating. I'm not religious. Yet one of the main reasons I'm not is because I believe that religion was and is inevitable. This is long-winded, but bear with me. What is the sun? It's a ball of burning hydrogen 900,000 miles across. It is at the middle stage of a life cycle that most stars go through. There are 400 billion others like it in our galaxy alone. Its warmth, light, energy, and proximity to Earth have undoubtedly aided the emergence of life on our planet and humans. Now, rewind past Einstein, past Newton, and Kepler, and Aristarchus. Go way back to some of the first small human communities. The day consists of hunting and gathering. There is no written language, there is no recorded information. There is no science, there is no social science, no grammar, no politics, no knowledge of nutrition or health. These people live with the physical world and their senses. Information is passed down orally, but this little bit of information is key. It is something that no other animal does on a logical basis. These early people have begun to use language-based logic. Primates, dolphins, etc. might do it on a small scale, but humans took a giant leap in regard to this. We are the first species to try to understand the world around us in a sense that can be shared with others. In this sharing, consensus is sought after. It is what establishes logic. If you have two groups of two, it is four. If animals bleed enough, they die. If you mix the right clay, you get mortar. There is living, and there is non-living. A rock will not move, it cannot be eaten, it cannot make decisions. So on and so forth. So going back to this sun fellow, these early people were able to discover and explore to some extent. They could climb a mountain if they saw it, they could cross water if they were blocked by it. But what about that big yellow circle in the sky? It's unreachable. For one, it not only grants us light, but it warms us. But wait, it rises in different places throughout the year. It remains in the sky longer at different times of the year. It can be covered by clouds. Holy duck. It can even be eclipsed by that other thing in the sky. Don't even get me started on that thing changing shapes and existing day and night, or those falling streaks of light at night, or that backdrop of twinkling lights in general, except those 5 others planets that don't twinkle, that move in relation to all the others. These people spent years of backbreaking work to erect buildings, to conduct ceremonies, etc. just so the sun would rise each morning. Do you see what I'm getting at? A very particular thing happens to early humans when you combine our ability to attempt logic and that which is unknown. We humanize it. If something grants us light and warmth and is mysterious, how could it not be a force? How could it not have our intentions in consideration? How is a solar eclipse something to be ignored? How is something like that not meant for us? How is the sun not an entity of intelligence? You can take this and apply it to anything unknown or mysterious, all animals, oceans, tornadoes, hurricanes, storms, lightning, floods, fire, vast canyons, mountain ranges, snow, ice. All of these have had gods made of them at one point in time. Maybe not entirely humanistic gods, but intelligent forces nonetheless. It is very human of us, for lack of a better word, to think that we are the center of the universe. Everything that we can sense or affect us must, in turn, be of our doing. It must be about us, because we are all we know. And it's no wonder, with oral and crude written language, that these magnificent stories came about. Mythologies, epics, tales, these fables that interestingly enough do not resemble the modern world. Another thing is humans need meaning in our lives. We need to know why we are here and what we are supposed to do. I would say that humans create their own meaning collectively. After all, we are nothing without others. We don't have language. We don't have logic. We don't have religion. Any light reading on feral children will confirm this. We create meaning. It is not inherent in the world. Purpose is not some physical structure in the universe. Now, nowhere in this have I ruled out the possibility of a higher power, but in this day and age I have to ask, why start there first? Why shouldn't the first assumption be we don't know, rather than we do? This is essentially why I'm not religious. I was raised by religious parents, in a religious community in a country where religion still has power over certain political agendas, and there has been huge scandals exposed in recent years. I see the harm of organized religion and always have been expected to behave a certain way under this religion. Anything else is disrespectful. Through my teenage years, certain things just did not seem to fit together. I do not like the idea of organized religion. I believe that whether there is a god or not should be a personal thing, and people should just be respectful of others' views instead of trying to force them to obey what their religion believes. I'm a Christian. I wasn't raised in it. My parents never went to church. I became interested when I was in elementary school and was baptized. I moved away from the faith later and eventually accepted that I was an atheist. Last year I started to get this itch I wanted to know more. My wife is religious, and I went to church with her because she wanted to raise the kids in the church and I frankly didn't care. That had gone on for a couple of years. But last year I picked up the Bible and I started realizing that everything I had ever known about Christianity was wrong. Christ clearly calls us to love other people. He doesn't talk about getting into heaven. He says the kingdom of God is within us and will come to earth. He filled his life with misfits and taught that we should love our enemies. He told us not to judge each other, but to help each other out. He saves us by his grace, not by our actions. People have done and said a lot of stupid stuff in his name. I read through this thread and I see so many people who have been damaged and destroyed and cast aside by their churches, and I just want to say I'm sorry. We are not all like that. The dirty little secret that many in the church like to forget is that we are all damaged and broken people, and that we should try to be better. But being a Christian doesn't automatically make you a good person. It boggles my mind that people take a faith based on humility and self-sacrifice and service and turn it into a way to make money. But they do. I hope that everyone here who has been hurt by a church or a Christian is able to find some sort of peace or catharsis. And I'm truly sorry that something that was supposed to be a beacon of light in the darkness has been used to give you pain. Greetings from India. I personally do not believe in following a religion and I'm not at all religious, even though my family is. What I've noticed is that religion and castes and everything causes problems in the society. May they be problems related to intercaste marriages or UN shareability or any such thing. So, I choose to treat every person equally, no matter what family, or what religion or what status they have. Also, if anyone chooses to believe in religion and follow it, then I have no quarrel with them. I'll learn to accept people as they are a long time back. It keeps things simple. Parents were religious. School was pretty religious. Community was definitely religious. I was religious for probably my first 24 years of my life. I became non-religious because I first realized I was wasting my time with a bunch of hypocrites. Granted, I knew and understood that everyone was a sinner. But the leaders of the church that I directly worked with, middle people, would go out and date a bunch of people, duck them, divorced their wives, and their lives were messed up, and they never seemed to correct that behavior. They also spoke in tongues and led Bible studies. Their lives were more ducked up than mine, and the grace of God never seemed to help change anything. That was the initial push which made me raise my eyebrows. I started reading a bunch more and getting more interested in science. Philosophy. I did some internal debating and reading. From C.S. Lewis on one side to Dawkins and Hitchens. Needless to say, I agreed more with Dawkins and Hitchens from an intellectual perspective. I quit going to church and learned I really enjoyed sleeping in and having 3-4 hours available before kickoff. When I was in middle school and high school, I always found other religions fascinating. I was raised Christian, but my parents weren't super religious, and we never went to church. In the time that I was learning about religions, I kept wondering why any of it made sense. I'm more of a math science guy and I like to make sure things are proven. If it isn't a theory backed up with trustworthy data, then I question why anyone could think it. You can't prove God. People can swear up and down that they can feel his guiding hand, but nobody can have any concrete proof of it. That's why you need faith. After questioning why it's a thing, I took world history and that opened my eyes even further. There are so many religions, even some that are dead now, but they all have something in common. Zoroastrianism is an ancient Persian religion that is very close to Christianity, but was created centuries beforehand. It seems like everything stems from something or another, and most god stories were created by storytellers to explain how the world worked. Religion was created to keep us from being afraid of the unknown. The hope it brings keeps people from worrying about things like death and disease because they have a guardian protecting them. If they are holy, I'm not an atheist, but neither am I religious. I will forever be a skeptic until the day I die and can see whether there is life after death or if I just disappear into the void. Only time will tell. I wasn't raised in a family that was religious. My parents gave my sister and I the option if we wanted to. and we did go to a few churches with friends for the experience. Ultimately we decided not to be though. I chose not to be. Not because of my lack of faith in God. I simply didn't feel that the church was something that was required for any faith I chose to have. My current views are not to have 100% faith in any known religion we have. I don't feel that only one religion is 100% right and all the rest are wrong. I believe there is a higher being than ourselves, but that could be God, aliens, who knows. I believe in being as good a person as I can be and in not judging others for their own views. I don't believe in the ideas of heaven or hell, but I do believe that after death we evolve into something greater than we are now. I'm satisfied with this. I was born and raised strictly Catholic, struggled with doubt in high school, and resolved those doubts throughout college and professional life. Here's the best I can explain all of it. Not trying to evangelize here, just explaining and defending my faith. Multiply 1. The perfection of the Gospels. When you hear people criticize Christianity, it generally falls into two categories. 1. Critique of archaic Old Testament law, 2. Critique of humans being humans and ducking up the message and practice of faith. But no one has been able to touch the Gospels. They are beautiful in their message. To me, it is utter perfection. Love each other. Care for the poor. Be merciful. Don't be quick to anger. Accept that we all f up, we are all sinners. But that to forgive is to be forgiven. You see the sheer power in that message through Pope Francis, who has eschewed the pomp and formality of Catholic hierarchy. Instead he lives as close to Jesus' teachings as possible. It never fails to just blow me away, just how powerful this message is. Multiply to the historical case. I was a history major. The act of recording Christ's works through the Gospels is stunning. The meticulousness is just awe-inspiring. 5 first-person accounts. Gospels Acts recorded Jesus' life, followed by another 22 epistles. Even the advanced Greek-Roman historians couldn't touch that. Compare it to, say, Commentary di Bello Gallico, Caesar's conquest of France. Arguably the most important historical epoch for the Roman Empire sans the transition from the renum Roman to democracy to emperor. And it happened within 50 years of Christ's life. You had essentially one source, Caesar himself, who documented the campaign. So take the historical account of mighty Caesar's conquest and put it up against this humble carpenter's kid in the backwater of the Roman Empire. His life and works bore the most elegant historical documentation in history to that point. Just amazing. Multiply 3 spirituality. This one is personal. We all know that every cultural on earth eventually tries to tap into some sort of astral existence. Some through sacrifice, some through works, some through meditation and rites. Christians do this through prayer. There have been 3 times in my life where I have hit a critical junction. I won't go into too many details. In each of those cases, I prayed with a deep intensity. In each case, I felt my spiritual consciousness alter. 2 times it was slight. 1 time it was quite dramatic. Years back, I had someone very close to me contemplating suicide. I was on my hands and knees in prayer. I was praying about what to do. Fly out back east to be with that person. Call the police. The anxiety was suffocating. In the midst of the prayer, one of the most profound experiences of my life, came a comfort so rapid and so consuming. I intuitively felt a sort of divine presence. No, presence overstates it. A whiff of divinity, if that makes any sense. Some of old ecclesiastical scholars will talk of being touched by God. I had no idea what that meant until that moment. All the angst and anxiety and fear and concern for my friend just vanished. I felt a warm sense of hope and optimism. This person would be just fine. And he was. I still get goosebumps thinking about the experience. Final, you don't need Christianity to live a good life. You don't need it to be a good person. That's garbage. But if you judge this faith based on the message the 4 Gospels, there is an elegance so profound it's divine. I was never a huge fan of organized religion. I used to be that asshole atheist. But I've calmed down a lot since becoming a huge fan of astrophysics. Just the vastness of the universe inspires enough awe within me without having to marvel at a deity. The universe is my deity in a way. I also don't believe in an afterlife. Most people are scared to death of the fact that once you're dead, that's it, no more you. Period. I feel the opposite. The idea of simply unbeing once you're dead gives me a great amount of inner peace, as I struggle with mental health issues, and I look forward to the day when I no longer am residing in nothingness and silence. Science serves as my dogma and its philosophical implications serve as my afterlife. Knowing the matter that comprises my body will eventually be a part of the earth as my idea of reincarnation, and it gives me enough comfort without the need for religious authorities, prayer sites, or ancient texts. My parents are religious, and I went to a religious elementary school and junior high. I participated in rigorous Bible study programs and youth groups. I did various ministry activities, some voluntarily, others forced by my parents, depending on where I was with my faith at the time. I took the studying very seriously, and always tried to have a personal understanding. I would question things and study with an appropriate level of skepticism, so that I wouldn't be blindly following. As I got older, the questions became larger, and more doubt-developed. Eventually I fell out of the routine of studying, and my parents allowed me to make my own choice. So I basically stopped cold turkey. For me, religion and spirituality is a very personal thing, and I could never tell someone what they feel is wrong. I still have a larger sense of spirituality that I can't simply explain, but I also find it difficult to accept. At this point I consider myself agnostic, because I think it is truly impossible for us to understand our universe's origin. As we understand it, things can't come from nowhere. But that is completely illogical, because how did matter come to exist at all? I just think there are certain things that we can't understand, and people will always try to explain it with science or religion. But in the end, does it really matter? In some sense, religion is easier. I still frequently discuss religion, and part of me wants to believe, but that other part simply cannot. It was about a year after my dad died. I was 9. There was a priest talking to the school at a harvest service or something. He said, "Let us pray." And I thought, but it doesn't do anything. Looking back, that is the moment I realized I didn't believe in a god. Yes, I was logical, always questioning things. I once tried to test Santa by only telling him what I wanted by post. My parents had to bribe an elf to listen in when they took me to see Santa, but I never thought about how silly it all seemed. I've questioned my beliefs many times since, and tried to work any flaws, but it comes down to if there is an all-loving God controlling everything. I don't feel its effect, and it doesn't help that, if his followers are to be believed, he acts like an abusive step-parent. I'm not religious, because there are so many different and sometimes contradictory ideas out there, with origins spread over hundreds of generations, that it's impossible to know who's right. The only correct answer to life's mysteries at this point, unless something can be proven with scientific evidence, is I have no clue. With that said, though, I have no problems with religion being a thing, as some others in this thread seem to have. Yes, religion is used as an excuse for some people to be horrible to everyone else, but I'm pretty sure those people would be horrible to everyone else anyway. On the other hand, religion has helped countless people find peace in their own lives, and that's a very good thing. Atheists tend to point out how absurd organized religion seems. A personal God who created the universe. The fact that we can trace so many biblical concepts to earlier religions. The fact that so many religious people are wholly regressive for our society, etc. etc. I wholly agree. Absurd. But I don't think enough people consider the absurdity of the alternative. That our universe exists. That we exist. That our universe may be one of infinite ones. We understand some of its rules, but not all of them. And we certainly don't understand why. And if your answer is simply it just is, well, that also seems pretty absurd to me. In short, I think it's disingenuous for either anybody, believers or unbelievers, to claim to have some sort of monopoly on the big question. I started off agnostic, but then I actually gave it a chance. I liked going, because it made me happy. It was nice. So many people had tried to force me to go before. I live in the Bible Belt, but when I actually made the choice myself, I was a lot more interested. I don't like the tell your folks tell your friends hell tell everybody up in here aspect, but I do enjoy feeling better. I like it because it was my choice, not my parents or the old ladies that would come into my work. Click subscribe. If you enjoyed this video,